Hey everyone, I am Ligia. This is going to be my first video here on YouTube, and I will try to make it as explanatory as I can, but as brief as I can as well. But before we get to business and start learning a little bit more on cultural overview of Brazilian Portuguese and of Brazil, the country as well, I intend to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I have been teaching English for the past 6-7 years in private schools, but my major was in history, and I try to combine the best of both worlds because the way I see it, it's possible to learn languages without its culture, but it would be a mere technical knowledge. It wouldn't be something that you really can take to your heart, you know? So I really think culture, grammar, syntax, lexicon, all those things can be learned together in association and with a lot of references, and no one truly learns another language without diving deep for anything that really interests you. Okay, this is what's going to set a good learner apart from others, aside from access to knowledge, to courses issue. Aside from this, I'm talking about study focuses and study techniques that will allow you to have a better Portuguese or a better English. Okay, so today we're going to focus on Portuguese. And let me not try to digress too much, but you see, I have a BA in history. I have been teaching English for non-native speakers here in Brazil for a while now because of the pandemic and due to other personal issues. I have been teaching online exclusively, but my idea is to spread a little bit more on Portuguese and English structure, syntax, grammar, and to combine this learning experience with culture, with history, and whichever other references we can use in the favor of acquiring new knowledge and really sharing everything that we can share about these experiences. Okay, so this is a little bit about me. Now you guys are looking at the first slide here. There's a title which says in Portuguese, Noções culturais e linguísticas do português e do Brasil. This translates as cultural and linguistical notions of Portuguese and of Brazil, the country. Okay, and in here you guys you guys can see my name. Even though in Brazilian Portuguese we use the expression professora for women or professor for men, in Brazil we don't have that association with university at first. Okay, this translates as teacher, so you can be a teacher of any type and use this word to call yourself. Okay, so this simply means teacher Ligia Simões. So my name here is Ligia. So for you guys to pronounce it, it would be in the phonetic alphabet something as L-E-E-G-E-E, and this A would be almost like a schwa, Ligia. Ligia. Not quite, but almost there. Okay, I'm not going to focus on that for now, but just as an introduction. Okay. By the way, I am a non-native English speaker. Even though I'm a teacher, I'm always learning. So whenever I make mistakes, and of course I will make mistakes as any human being, please feel free to correct me, feel free to try to give me suggestions, okay? The only thing as a human being that I really require is don't be rude, right? You can criticize somebody in a constructive way, and this is what I believe in any educational setting, but also in life, and this is something that I also want to apply to me. As a Brazilian, I do have my accent, okay? It's impossible to get rid of our accents, and this is not what learning a language is supposed to be like. What we have to strive for is to communicate in an effective way, depending on context, depending on the experience you're living, and to what audience or to what people you are referring to. Okay, so please be mindful, be respectful, and of course I will take all possible commentaries into consideration, because I really want to be the best version of a teacher and of a human being as I can. Okay. You guys probably have noticed this beautiful beach landscape, and this is going to follow us through this slide presentation, and it's not random, okay? If you guys do not know a lot about Brazil, you will understand why this beautiful heavenly background image is there, okay? So moving on. Imagine this is the kind of a one-to-one class, okay? Even though I'm not interacting with you face-to-face, the idea is you guys can put in the commentaries, in the comment section, your possible answers, and of course I'll be checking them out. So whenever you think of Brazil, what is the first or the first mental images your mind can conceive of? Okay. So I'm just going to be asking a few questions, okay? And what about the language? Have you ever heard of Portuguese before? How did you come across our language? Why is it important for you to learn it? And what about Brazilian people? We all, because of our global immersion in news, in many references in pop culture, music, movies, literature, of course we all have our basic data on the most talked places on the globe, and Brazil, for good and bad, is also one of these. But aside from these stereotypes, what do you know about Brazilian people? How do you have Brazilian friends? What is basing this interest in our country? Okay, these are important questions to answer before learning any language. First, because of course, if one has enough conditions, financial conditions and time, it would be lovely to learn many languages. However, we have to be realistic. Most of us do not have the time, the conditions, the financial the financial backup to do so like we would. So as a teacher and as a learner myself, I can guarantee that it's best to do a lot of research on what this language can add to my work experience, to the area that I study, to the job, to the work goals I have in mind for myself, because depending on those, the language you should be learning is not the language you want to learn. So you can learn other languages in time and focus on the ones that are going to assist you in having a better life, not only money-wise, but also in terms of experiences and job qualification. Okay, so why do you want to learn Portuguese, and what do you know already? Okay, first of all, let me read with you those terms in Portuguese. Okay, in every bit of my slides, you guys are going to be able to see the English topics, and also translations. Okay, in between brackets, there are always going to be translation of terms or of grammatical structures. Okay, so and another side note would be, I'm not going to be teaching today articles, but every time you learn a word in Portuguese, you should be associating it with an article, because Portuguese is a language founded on grammar gender. Okay, so pay attention to these. I'm going to go over this topic further, but pay attention. Okay, I'm not going to be talking about articles now, but it's fundamental to learn words with its respective article. Okay, we are going to see declinations, we are going to see alterations of this main term depending on the other words that are going to follow and that are going to combine with it. Okay, so country is país, and yes, there is an acute graphic sign over here. Okay, language, língua. Of course, you guys repeat after me in your own time. Língua, language. Okay. And people. Okay, this is a plural now. Pessoas. Your turn. País, língua, and pessoas. Okay, so we are pretty much inquiring you guys about your background knowledge on Brazil. There was a time before the internet and of other news sources that people really knew very little about Brazil, and it was almost like a meme before its time to associate the country with those simple associations of soccer, of carnival, delicious food, beautiful women. But as it is with every stereotype, this is incomplete, and a part of the stereotype is also not true. Okay. So, for example, because of events such as Carnival, such as the fact that we host, I think, the largest LGBTQA+ pride parades on the globe, people assume Brazilians are very progressive. That couldn't be further from the truth. Brazilians are, at most times, really conservative, okay, particularly because of what religion has done to the country. And I'm not being biased against the religion. I am a spiritual person myself, but I just want to point out that religious institutions played a pivotal role in colonization, in our recent republic. So no, Brazilians are not progressive at most times, and this will alter the way you interact with Brazilians, okay? Because you are going to know what to expect from the majority. Remember, we are generalizing here. I am a progressive person myself, so I don't belong to this majority of people. But it's important to be aware of what you're going to expect here or whenever you talk to any Brazilian, okay, the average Brazilian. So there was a time like that, and it was awful nowadays, because even if with all the fake news, with all the lying, we have more information that we did in the past. So people are more aware of not only our struggles here, but also of our beautiful aspects. Okay, and this is it with every culture, every nationality. You can have a lot of divisions. You can have a lot of serious cumulative problems, but you also you have to understand the country from within and from the external for you to make a better judgment and understand that things are not as simplistic than that one would assume at first. All right. So no, the stereotype, even though it has some truth to it, this is not all that Brazil can offer, and you guys should already know about this, okay? Just to pay attention. So, for example, the first mental image I have of my country is the gorgeous nature. And yes, our tropical landscapes are heavenly, and this is why we ought to preserve it. Although this is not what our current government is doing, unfortunately. Whenever we think of Portuguese, people also have this crazy idea that Portuguese is just a derivation from the Portuguese from Portugal, and actually our language has evolved a lot. And no, even though phonetically Portuguese do have some resemblance to Russian and other East European languages, it's actually very different in structure. So we are dealing with a Romance language here, okay, with different combinations from within because of what our history, our past has been like, due to the other influences Portuguese received. Consider how American English and British English are different. Okay, there's even a reflection that because in the New World, people, particularly the elites, really wanted to speak in a different way to really mark with the language their differences and their assertion over land. The vocalization of vowels became more predominant in comparison to British English, for instance, that tends to be a little bit more consonantal. Okay, I think a similar phenomena has happened with Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese from Portugal. I will try to do my best to cover Portuguese from Portugal, but be aware, I am a Brazilian that resides in the southwest of the country, in the countryside of the province of São Paulo. So my life experiences, my teaching style, my accent, they are all related to that experience. And because of this, my style is going to be in according to this experience, to this style, to all my teaching experiences related to that. Okay, but whenever I can bring influences from the Portuguese from Portugal, of course, I'll have the pleasure of sharing that with you. And what about the people? Most people assume that the Brazilians are all extroverted. They all like partying really hard. They are not focused on commitment. Most of them. I'm just stating what I have heard as a Brazilian. Okay, not what I believe in. Oh, Brazilians are not they are not fond of being punctual, for instance. Guys, these are all stereotypes. So yes, they do apply for some people, but not for all. I am an introverted person. I hate being late for appointments. Sometimes I tend to be very formal, especially for Brazilian standards. Let me see what else. And I am definitely someone who likes commitment and order, while being progressive, politically speaking. Okay, but this is only a personal style of mine, and people should be mindful that there are differences within. So stereotypes can be true, but they are incomplete. Okay, and sometimes just wrong. So be mindful of that. This part of considerations of a native person, considerações de uma pessoa nativa, I think I have already covered that without realizing, but pretty much what I wanted to emphasize here is learning any language can be a mere technical journey you embark upon, or an exercise that is deeper, that will allow you to not only memorize terms and the grammar elements just for the sake of a test, whether it is proficiency tests or not, okay, and building knowledge for life. I think these are distinct things entirely. Of course, you can thrive in both aspects, and this is what we aim for. But understand this: I'm always going to associate grammar, vocabulary lessons, and so forth, always with the culture in mind. And the way I see it, it's really a better way to use our memory system with associations. And in my opinion, especially for those learners who have difficulty in memorization or are neuroatypicals, this will really come in handy. Okay, so this is my perspective as a teacher, and I really encourage you guys to keep your textbooks with you, keep a notebook nearby so you can always take important notes. This is really helpful for our association system to work well, and for memorization as well. But it's nice of us to try to combine different techniques and sources. So please immerse yourself in the language, watch a lot of podcasts, YouTube channels, videos, movies, TV series. If you can, of course, in due time, read books in Portuguese, listen to Brazilian bands. But at the same time, it is vital to keep an organized schedule of studying, from textbooks or not, but the organization of a textbook is not random. It is made for students to develop themselves better, so you can use it while at the same time trying to get other sources of learning. So you don't have to have one or the other. You can have both. And the more you learn from different sources, the better. And we're talking here learning any skill, not only languages. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I think I have stayed too long in this slide alone, but I guess it was an important thing to say. Oh, and also background knowledge in Portuguese is what we call conhecimento prévio. Conhecimento prévio. This is nice because even though one can only have the stereotype in mind, that's good. Okay, you already have any reference, and you can deconstruct it, add layers of more knowledge and data and new combinations to it, and develop yourself while improving your Portuguese. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, this is still a part of the overview of Brazilian culture and language. I even said, or even wrote this in Portuguese, ao estilo Wikipedia, which means in Wikipedian style. But this is only for you guys to develop a better idea of Portuguese and Brazil. Okay, so what I aim for here is gathering general references on those three aspects we started discussing, which is país, country, pessoas, people, e língua, and language. Okay, repeat once more with me, please. País, country, pessoas, people, and language, língua. Okay, perfect. Of course, you all can see many iconic references to my culture in here. Okay, let's see if we can recall some of them. Okay, this is a papaya, this is a coconut tree, a soccer ball probably. Those slippers here are what we call Havaianas. Okay, Havaianas is the brand name. We call the pair of slippers for we call those slippers we call them as the brand name. Okay, there is a figurative language device for this. I have forgotten the term, but you guys are probably going to recognize later. This is also the map of Brazil. Okay, so yes, huge country indeed, and we have other animals and things of the sort. I think this is a trophy of important soccer match. Okay. You can notice that I'm not a soccer person myself for saying this, but probably a reference to soccer, which is the biggest sport around here. Okay, all my respect to the ones that love soccer. Okay, it's just not my thing, but I admit that it can be a great way for people to exercise and to just get a good hobby. Okay, there you go. So now let's get to know a little bit more of our culture before we continue on this beginning of learning Portuguese. Different than other regions, other countries in South America, Brazil is the only South American country that speaks Portuguese. Yes. This is really telling. And in many ways, it has made difficult our relation to our it has made difficult our diplomatic and official and extra-official relationships with our neighbors, because if we could have implemented Spanish learning at schools a long time ago, our exchange programs with nearby countries, our neighbors, would be much more established, much better. Of course, we do have a shared past, a shared nature, a shared experience, but the language barrier is huge. This is one of the reasons why in some parts of the country influences from North America and Europe are even easier to they are more easy to see than the cultural exchanges that we do have deeply with our neighbors, but they are not as broadcast as the ones with other potencies around the globe. Okay, so there is a language barrier between us, Brazilians, and other South Americans, such as Argentinians, Chileans, Peruvians, Bolivians, and others. Okay. Besides us here speaking Portuguese, there are English-speaking people on the Maldives Islands because of the conflict that arose there, and also countries that are still pretty much colonial possessions, but in an indirect way, such as the Guyanas, Suriname. So there are portions of the continent that speak English, Dutch, French, but the majority speaks Spanish. Okay, the majority speaks Spanish. So there is a language barrier for our exchanges that could have been solved with Spanish classes in public schools. Now we are headed to this. We do have more Spanish classes than we did, but you see, I am in my 30s, and in my time of basic schooling, I didn't have Spanish. Okay, so there you go. I really hope the future generations will have what I didn't. Another major distinction between Brazil and other South American countries is the type of colonization. We were colonized by the Portuguese, and during this process that took more than 500 years, what happened is that even though we did have lots of civil wars, pretty much, some of them more leaning more towards egalitarian purposes, others more related to the elites wanna have their own saying in here, so we are going to fight the Portuguese oppressors, but not for an egalitarian sense of things. But yes, there were types of civil wars that were pretty much of those two possibilities. That being said, our colonization was hella different than others. First of all, because of the language, because of the battles for boundary delimitations with the Spanish in other countries that were about to be formed later. And in addition to that, I would say that the fact that the Portuguese court in a certain part of our history moved here dislocating the locus of the metropolis to the colony, it changed the things. This is why even today in Portuguese we have a lot of monarchic imagery in our culture. For example, until today, Pelé, the great soccer player, is called the king of soccer. Okay? Or whenever we refer to a beloved artist, oh, that singer is the queen of something else. Okay, but today things are really turning out to be different. But there was a time that the monarchy, as an idea, even in words, we could really perceive it. And this is because, different from other ex-colonies that became a republic, Brazil has become a monarchy first. Okay, so we did have a different system of slave trade, of political regime, and the type of conflicts that were, even though we had a lot of attempted invasions, aside from the Portuguese one, such as the Dutch, the French. Okay? The Dutch invaded what we call a portion of the north west, and the French invaded the region that Rio de Janeiro belongs to. Okay, so this different system of things in the past really did have an impact on the way we express, on the way we think, on the way our political regime is still pretty much going on, you see. So you don't have to remember those details, but please bear this information with me, because it's going to matter a lot. And also we are a country that is continental in dimensions. Okay, our territory is simply enormous, and this is why it shows in biodiversity, in regional differences, all the many accents, the many languages we speak in here. Yes, why not mention this? Portuguese is the official language, alongside with Libras, the deaf community sign language. That being said, there are large parts of the country that speak indigenous languages, particularly Tupi or Tupi-Guarani, but not only, and other mix of languages of recent immigrants from the 19th century onwards, and these deeply rooted indigenous languages. Okay, for example, a lot of street names, city names in Brazil, they are of native people's origin. The city I live in, as an illustration, is called Sorocaba, which in Tupi means torn land, a land torn by rivers. Okay, so this is just one example of many. And one interesting curiosity is that Brazil is way more populated on the coastline, on the capitals of the coastline, than the other great cities from the countryside. Okay, these days, not these days, but in contemporary times, the balance is shifting towards the continent, precisely due to a lack of opportunities in big cities, right? The bigger the city, the more difficult it is to get job opportunities and such. However, in its origin, our coastline from north to south was way more populated than other areas, and this is why if you're able to see Brazil from Google Maps or any other device like this, you are able to see the city lights way brighter on this coast. Okay, so colonization started there, and the first cities, the first settlements, the first churches, they were all established from this region onwards. And if you check your political map, some of the most important cities in Brazil are, if not on the coastline, very near to them. Okay, so yes, Brazil started on the beach. I have been born on the beach, but unfortunately I don't live on the coast. Okay. Now talking about a more gloomy issue, but a really fundamental one. Aside from the colonization that we've discussed and the other European invasions and the European immigration, particularly from the 20th century onwards, of Italians, Germans, and much more. It is vital to affirm that colonization has this cumulative effect on us all, especially the minorities, especially the poor, and our country was really founded on the indigenous genocide and on the African slavery, commerce, and oppression. Okay, so yes, this is really tough, this is really horrible, and the effects until today are very noticeable, and it is undeniable. Brazil has been born out of blood, their blood, and we should get more informed. We should pay attention to the terms we use, as with in many other languages, and every time I will be able to reference those fundamental cultures that are part of this mix that form us as Brazilians, I'm going to discuss them as a parallel note. Okay, but you see, African languages such as Yoruba and indigenous languages such as Tupi-Guarani, they are really important parts of the formation of a Portuguese. Not only those, but also even the Arabic, the Moor presence. Sorry, this is just a reference to the past. The Arabic presence on the Iberian Peninsula also made a really important legacy here. There are many Arabic terms in Portuguese, for example. So yes, these are all part of our heritage. The good bits and the sad, horrible part, which is a product of oppression. Okay. Yeah, Brazil is part of the global south. It is, depending on the terminology and on the sociological concept the person studies. Okay, you can consider it a global south, a third world country, because I'm going to try to be as direct as I can. Even though we are years away from colonization times, it is our founding problems, and it's not a it's okay, it is a direct we are still living a direct consequence of this, okay? Of course, in many new complex ways, but yes, we do. And what it means to be a global south country. We exist in a place that advocating for a welfare state for all of us is still a hot topic. There is a tendency of leaning towards an ultra neoliberalism in economy, and unfortunately our culture and customs are not that much liberal, and by liberal I refer to what the American version would be like, accepting of all practices of types of people, no matter what. So unfortunately this is not the case here. Brazil is indeed a very conservative country, and a country where this stage of capitalism is really, really dire. We can see the consequences of a lack of a welfare, a deeply rooted welfare state very quickly. The segregation of black people and of indigenous people is pretty crystal clear as well. There is the phenomena of the favelas. What else can I add to this picture? Consider the fact that a lot of people are fighting against those types of oppression. However, the elites, the so-called elites, and the ones that hold the cards on the game, they are not interested in making the average citizen's life better. They really feel like in order for them to feel better, it's not enough to have a lot of opportunities and conditions. It is important to differentiate yourself from others. So this is the neoliberalistic perspective here in Brazil. So there is you can even say that the difference between the poor and the rich is even more gargantuan. Okay. And yes, it is a very complicated and complex country to live in. But we have got good things as well as any other place in the globe. And this blend of cultures, apart from the fact that their origins are horrible, simply horrible, but those multicultural influences, this enormous diversification in reality allow us to have a beautiful, great potential. But there has always been an old school saying in Brazil, oh, Brazil is the country of the future. But unfortunately, it's a future that never gets there, okay? We really expect things to change, particularly, and let's cross our fingers, if the current government will not win the elections this year. But our problems are even more complex than that. So we do have a lot of history to catch up with. But this blend of cultures really makes us interesting and rich. Brazil is a place that has created another martial art form. Actually, the slaves, the black descendants from these slaves created this incredible martial art that is capoeira. They have also created really delicious dishes such as feijoada. very very sensible and beautiful rituals and religion such as Umbanda and Candomblé. Our indigenous cultures are as varied as you can possibly imagine. So we can make room for hope and for a better future, because diversity and adaptation is what will allow humans to really thrive and survive in a very difficult environment that is the world we see today. But people have to unite before it is a possible future, not only an utopian wishful thinking. Okay, sorry, moving forward. And I also have a quote here. Language is a living thing. A língua é uma coisa viva. Okay, what this means? This means that in order for us to not only mimic a style or memorize grammatical rules out of nowhere, we have got to associate language learning with the things we love, with textbooks or other written sources that are structured and well thought of, well done by experts, by teachers, recognized teachers. And also you can base your learning experience from based on everything you love to do. Things that you love doing and you don't even notice that you are learning while you do it, such as looking up for a band's music lyrics in Portuguese, such as following up a TV series on Netflix whose characters speak Portuguese and following the script. Meanwhile, is really structuring your study practice and time. I think we can get the best of both worlds with with those combined techniques. Okay, so this is why learning a little bit more on a country's culture and its society will drastically improve your language awareness and understanding. Okay, can you guys pinpoint any of those references? Okay, I'm going to give you guys a second, but you see, this on the extreme left. Oh, sorry, extreme left would be this. This is someone doing capoeira moves. Okay, that is special dance martial art that slaves used to develop and have developed really further to practice fighting, and also to kind of like disguise it as a dance, okay, which was a very brilliant thing to do. This is our beautiful island, Fernando de Noronha, an awesome landscape of really intact nature until now. I don't know how it is these days. This is one of our most precious writers ever, Machado de Assis, a black man that in the 19th century wrote novels and short stories like no one else, and even predicted the psychological style known to many so-called modernists in Europe and in America. Okay, you guys can check that out. He even wrote very how can I put this in English? Telling things about the human psyche even before Freud. So yes, he's just a treasure. Okay, and this is just something to to poke at you guys, particularly the Americans around here. You see, American people were taught at schools that it was the brothers Wright that developed the airplane, wasn't it? Actually, we Brazilians tended to disagree. For us, the inventor of the airplane was Santos Dumont, or in French it's probably Santos Dumont. Pardon my French, I don't speak French, unfortunately, okay? I know a little bit of Libras, German, but not French, not so far. But you see, yes, this is a major discussion between us Brazilians and Americans, okay? So another hot topic. No, it was Santos Dumont, not the brothers Wright, who did invent the plane, okay? What are the challenges we're going to face when learning Portuguese? There is a scarcity of materials and resources, yes. Currently, more textbooks, more materials online are available, but in comparison to other languages, yes, it is. We do have less than we would have normally. That being said, we can work with the things we have, and one of the reasons why I want to develop this channel is to offer you guys more content. Not because there is great channels in here about learning Portuguese, but this not only happens with Portuguese, but with other languages as well. The basic foundations for beginners, I don't find that quite often. So I think this is going to add up to the learning community, and I really hope that is the case. I will be commenting further the materials I do possess, to review them, to recommend them. Many of the exercises I will that I developed or that I have with me based on those textbooks, on those on the materials for non-natives to learn Portuguese, I will credit in here, okay? And in due time I'm going to explore there further, but yeah, in comparison we have less material than other languages, but I promise we will make up for it in terms of very neat cultural references, okay? There is a lack of Portuguese dubbed versions online or videos of any kind with the subtitles. I don't know how to put subtitles on videos, and I promise that one day I'm going to learn how to do this because I really want to. There are many things for Portuguese learners and also for Brazilians that don't speak English that they should have access to as a means of debate, as a means of keeping up with the debates around the globe. And I think that's really important. Automatic subtitles on YouTube, they of course they are limited, but they were already an advancement, but it's not enough. So one day I really intend to learn how to do this, and perhaps I can offer this as another video possibility to upload here on YouTube. Our proficiency exam is called the CELPE-BRAS. It is a thorough, interesting, and very interesting exam. But the problem with it is that it resembles, in my opinion, a lot of the university entrance exams we have in Brazil. So, in other words, I guess it wants the participant to prove that they know so much of general knowledge and of Brazilian references that the language bit, the specifics, is not that fragmented. And for beginners, for intermediate students, I wouldn't recommend. I am not I am not updated on the recent changes of this exam. I promise I will be reading on that. But from my experience with it, people that are just starting to learn and intermediate learners of Portuguese are not yet capable to do this. Not because that they lack something, it's because the exam is so demanding on general knowledge, and depending on the country you come from, of course your background, you didn't have this access of broad discussions on the world. Okay, so I think this is really a recommendation, even if CELPE-Brás can try to be a little bit more like other exams such as the Cambridge ones, TOEFL, it would be best. Okay, it is and let me clarify this, it's a great exam, so good that it's very difficult even for native Brazilians. Okay, so this is the problem, it's too good. It should be a little bit more specific towards the goal of a proficiency in language alone, okay, with some notions of culture, but it shouldn't be the focus, because learning a language is already challenging enough. Because Brazilian references are indeed specific, there is a tendency of finding specific types of music, of a TV series, of books, but of course we can expand our tastes and our awareness on a culture just trying it out. Okay, this is also important. But if you are someone with a particular hobby, I think it's valid to search for dubbed versions or translated books. Okay, I think this should be a possible way out of this specific niche situation. And on the other hand, even though we do have those difficulties, we are a tiny but united community of teachers, of learners, and we are very passionate on what we do. So we're really aiming for the best and trying to develop ourselves as teachers and as students. Okay? I guess that is all for today. But tomorrow I'm going to try to do the second part. I'm not sure how many parts I'm going to divide this in, but this is an overview of Portuguese notions so far of a Portuguese Brazilian culture. Okay, but we're going to immerse ourselves more on language bits now. And at the end of this slide combo, I'm going to do a quiz with you guys. And again, this is my first video here on YouTube that it's not targeted at my private students. I am a really shy person. I'm not sure if I did my best here, but I'm always going to try to be a better version of myself. And sorry, I think I digressed a lot, but I will get the hang out of this eventually. Okay, thank you so much. If you like this video, if you don't like this video, but if you want to add why in a constructive manner, this will help me a lot. And I really hope I provide you guys with good information and a way to learn Portuguese from scratch. I will be also posting videos on English as well for non-native speakers and for Brazilians who want to learn English, but they are going to be more specific. Okay, there are many excellent YouTubers for English, for Portuguese as well, but it's a little bit more specific, so I think I will have more room for development on this area. Okay, I really hope you guys liked it. Please subscribe to my channel, comment, Feel free to criticize, but don't be rude, please. This is just a one-on-one human interaction. And I really thank you for watching this video entirely. Thank you so much and have a good week, okay? Bye bye.